A father is accused of shooting his own son to death.
Oh no! Oh wow!
This is Dante Schofield, a 32-year-old father of two from Atlanta, Georgia, and everything about how this man died is so disturbing because it should not have happened the way it did. His family said he had spent years fighting to leave his past behind and build something real for his kids, and on the night of October 29th, going into the early hours of October 30th, 2025, he was shot dead in the parking lot of his own apartment complex by the one person who should have been protecting him, his own father. What makes this whole thing even harder to sit with is that the police had already been there. The situation had already cooled down, and everybody in that building thought the worst was behind them before he got shot. But before we get to the parking lot, we need to go back to how the night actually started, because this did not begin with an argument between a father and a son. Late on the night of October 29th, Dante Schofield crashed his SUV into the side of a building somewhere in Atlanta, and to this day, the exact location has never been made public, and nobody has said on record what caused the crash. Schofield did not call for help or wait around for police to show up. He called his girlfriend, and she came and picked him up. She made an anonymous call to police to tip them off about the wreck, but did not wait for officers to arrive at the scene. Instead, she drove Schofield straight back to their apartment at 55 Far Road Northwest in Atlanta's Buckhead area. The whole thing got quietly left behind, and the two of them went home together. Now, right here is where you need to pay close attention, because once they got back to the apartment, everything that had been simmering under the surface started coming up fast. The girlfriend asked Schofield to leave and give back his key, and he got aggressive, started breaking things inside the apartment, and flat out refused to go. Although she knew that he never physically hurt her during that argument, she was scared enough that she knew she could not handle this on her own, so she made 2 phone calls that changed the rest of the night completely. The first call went to 911. The second call went to Schofield's own father. She called the one man she believed could actually walk through that door and calm her boyfriend down. That tells you something real about the kind of influence she thought Ro Tolliver had over his son, and it also tells you that whatever their family dynamic looked like, she trusted him to handle it. Durante Ro Tolliver, 54 years old, got in his car and drove to the apartment after hearing what was going on, and Atlanta police officers pulled up around 12:22 in the morning to begin talking to the girlfriend inside the unit, while the father was still pulling into the parking lot. Inside the apartment, father and son went at it briefly, but officers watching them said both men appeared to settle down pretty quickly, and the situation looked like it was under control. The two of them walked out together toward Ro Tolliver's vehicle in the parking lot, with the officers believing the whole thing was done, and those officers stayed inside to keep talking to the girlfriend. Nobody was out there watching what happened next. According to the arrest warrant, once the two of them got to the parking lot and got near the car, Schofield slammed the car door, and that one thing was enough to bring all that anger rushing back. Ro Tolliver told his son to step back and cool down, and the two of them ended up standing about 10 to 15 feet apart when Ro Tolliver claimed he saw his son reach toward his waistband. In his mind, his son was going for a gun, so he did not wait to find out for sure. He opened fire right there in the parking lot.
It sounded like, at first it was like pop, 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 and then it was pop, pop.
A neighbor named Angeline Santavasi was sitting inside watching TV when she heard the shots and thought it was fireworks at first. By the time the officers who had been inside came running back out, Dante Schofield was already on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds and was pronounced dead right there at the scene. His own father had fired at least 12 rounds into him, and when officers searched Schofield's body for a weapon, they found absolutely nothing. No gun, nothing at all. The whole self-defense story Ro Tolliver gave police was built entirely on what he thought he saw, rather than on anything that was actually there. Ro Tolliver was arrested right there on the spot, and the very next morning, a judge denied him bond and sent him to Fulton County Jail, where he has been sitting ever since. Now, we need to talk about who Dante Schofield really was as a person, because his family made it very clear from the start that they don't want this one terrible night to be the only thing people know about him. And when you hear how his sister talked about him, you understand why. Durante LaShawn Schofield came into this world on May 9, 1993, and grew up in Atlanta in a big family of 12 siblings. People in his circle called him Runt, and if you knew anything about who he grew up to be, that nickname is kind of funny in a bittersweet way, because the man his family describes was anything but small in how he showed up for people. He went to Stone Mountain High School in DeKalb County, and like a lot of young black men coming up in Metro Atlanta, his road was not clean and straight. He got into trouble at some point and picked up a felony conviction, though the specific details of what those charges were have never been shared publicly. But here is what his family kept saying over and over again. Schofield had genuinely turned things around. He put in the work, he changed his life, and he came back. By the time he was 32, Schofield was out here working as an independent contractor in Metro Atlanta, doing his own thing and building a life for himself and his 2 kids. Everybody who knew him described him basically the same way: present, engaged, proud to be a father, and somebody who made being a dad his main priority. His sister, Dee, described him as a lover and a giver and a helper. Schofield came from a tight family, and his father, Ro Tolliver, was clearly somebody his girlfriend felt comfortable enough to call when things got real. We don't know a lot about Ro Tolliver's background because very little has been made public beyond the fact that he's also a convicted felon and that he drove to that apartment that night with every intention of helping his son calm down. There are no public records on his job, his past, or how present he had been in Schofield's life growing up. The family situation itself has some layers to it, given that Schofield's siblings carry the last name Clyburn, which is different from both Schofield and Ro Tolliver, and that kind of suggests a blended or extended family setup that nobody has explained publicly. Now, the girlfriend herself has never been publicly identified throughout any of this. She works for the Fulton County Marshal's Department and was put on paid leave after everything happened while an internal investigation was being handled, though she was never charged with anything. Her role in how the night unfolded is real though, and it's worth sitting with not because anyone is saying she did something criminal, but because every choice she made, from the anonymous tip about the wreck to driving Schofield home to calling Ro Tolliver directly, ended up shaping what happened in that parking lot. None of those choices were made with bad intentions, but every single one of them mattered. And then there's the rumor that started spreading online not long after the story broke. And if you spent any time on social media around this case, you already know what it is. Several blogs and a bunch of comments on Instagram and Twitter started pushing the idea that Ro Tolliver and Schofield's girlfriend had some kind of romantic relationship going on behind the scenes, and that the shooting wasn't just about self-defense, but was really about something personal between the father and the son. We have to be real about this. There's zero official evidence behind that claim. The police never brought it up, the arrest warrant doesn't mention anything like it, and not one credible news outlet confirmed it. What the actual paperwork says is that Ro Tolliver claimed self-defense, and what the evidence says is that when police searched Schofield's body, they found nothing. That's the only version of this story that's backed up by anything real. What the evidence still can't explain is why a man empties 12 rounds into his own child in a parking lot while the police are standing 50 feet away. As of right now, there's no trial date set, no plea has been reported, and no public updates have come out about where the case is actually heading. Murder cases in Georgia typically take anywhere from several months to over a year just to get to trial because of how long the forensic work and legal back and forth takes. So the fact that this one has been quiet is not unusual.
Joins us live from Buckhead, where this all took place. Kevin?
Yeah, this all started as an argument between a boyfriend and a girlfriend back here at these condos here on Fall Road. Then it turned into something else. Listen closely. Right here in this parking lot in the middle of the night,
4 or 5 gunshots. Pow, 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 pow.
a father is accused of shooting his own son to death.
Oh no. Oh wow.
A scenario with a twist that has left neighbors here perplexed. According to APD, 54-year-old Durante Tolliver came to the 55 Far condos to defuse an argument between his son and girlfriend. But police say Tolliver ended up shooting his son.
A 32-year-old male suffering from multiple gunshot wounds, deceased outside. All parties were detained.
Not typically what you would think would happen.
Now, let's go back to before the shooting. Police were already on the scene when it happened. The first 911 call here was to break up a domestic incident between the victim and his girlfriend. The victim had left for the parking lot after talking to police. Then
Officers heard gunshots. They responded outside.
this neighbor goes by John. He didn't want his face shown. He insists he heard arguing.
I saw when they showed up. So like that was after the fight had been going on for some time. It's pretty noisy.
John says he's heard fights before, but nothing he considered too unusual.
From what I knew about him, he's pretty cool, nice guy.
He points out neither the girlfriend or the father live here, and that's a problem.
They definitely need 24/7 security here at the property.
Because folks here want to make sure this area remains quiet.
A man shot and killed by his father is struggling to understand how a family dispute turned deadly. Today we got the mugshot of the man accused of killing his own son. Channel 2's Michael Seiden spoke with her. He's live in Buckhead after speaking to that victim's sister.
And Dee Clyburn told me that she agreed to speak with me because she doesn't want this tragedy to define her brother's life. Again, she is so shaken by what happened. We also want to tell you we've learned exclusively tonight that the victim's girlfriend, a Fulton County marshal, has actually been placed on paid administrative leave pending the outcome of an APD investigation.
I wouldn't have ever imagined, not in 100 years, would I have thought that this was the phone call I was getting.
Dee Clyburn says she still can't process what she's been told, that her older brother, 32-year-old Durante Schofield, was shot and killed by their own father. On Friday, Clyburn spoke with us by phone, fighting back tears as she described the shock and heartbreak.
That's my big brother, and I will never be able to call him again.
Clyburn says Schofield was the proud father of 2 young children, an entrepreneur who worked as an independent contractor in Metro Atlanta, and a family man who loved being a dad, a brother, and a creative spirit.
He cared genuinely and deeply about people. He was a passionate person.
Earlier in the day, a judge denied bond for their father, 54-year-old Durante Rowe Tolliver. Investigators say he drove to the 55 Farr Apartments in Buckhead after learning his son had been involved in a car crash. According to an affidavit, he and his son began fighting inside the apartment, but when officers arrived, they say both men appeared calm and walked out together. Once they got to the parking lot, the argument started again. Investigators say the father told police he believed his son reached towards his waistband as if he had a gun, so he fired at least 12 shots. Police say they searched Schofield's body, but he did not have a gun.
Just remember him as being a lover and a giver, a helper.
And Dee told me that although her brother was a convicted felon, he had really gotten his life together. He was making positive changes and really having a positive influence on his friends and family. Now, the family obviously is going to need some help with the funeral arrangements. They've launched a GoFundMe page. We've got all the details posted on our webpage right now, WSBTV.com. For now, we're live in Buckhead. Michael Seiden, Channel 2 Action News.
Well, a man is waking up in jail this morning after police say he shot his son 12 times at a Buckhead apartment complex. Durante Rowe Tolliver is charged with murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Police say he killed Durante Schofield early Thursday morning following a fight between Schofield and his girlfriend. They say the girlfriend called his father, and at some point the father and son started fighting. According to warrants, Rowe Tolliver told police he believed his son was about to pull a gun out on him. That's when he says he shot him.
That last one carries extra weight because Rowe Tolliver himself is a convicted felon, meaning he wasn't even supposed to have a gun on him in the first place. The self-defense claim he gave to police is really the only thing standing between him and spending the rest of his life in prison, and right now that claim is not sitting on solid ground. The way self-defense works is that the person who fired the gun has to genuinely have believed their life was in immediate danger and that they had no other choice at that moment. In Georgia, walking into court with a self-defense argument and no physical evidence to back it up is an extremely hard thing to sell to a jury, especially when the person you shot was completely unarmed and you fired that many rounds. To put this in perspective, there was another case back in May 2022 down in Carencro, Louisiana, where a 70-year-old man named Cuba Valier shot and killed his 34-year-old son, Terrence, during a domestic dispute after he stepped in to stop Terrence from physically attacking his girlfriend. When Terrence pulled out a knife and charged at his father, Cuba shot him once, and a grand jury that reviewed the case in March 2023 chose not to indict him. The reason that outcome was different from what Roe Tolliver is facing comes down to one thing. There was a knife at the scene, a real weapon that police found next to the body and that backed up everything the father said. In the Schofield case, there is none of that. Just 12 shell casings on the ground and a father's word against what the physical evidence is telling investigators. Something else that keeps coming up in conversations about this case is the history of that apartment building. Atlanta police records show that officers had been called out to 55 Far Road at least 17 times before the night of the shooting for different types of disturbances. Nobody has spelled out publicly how many of those calls involved Schofield or his girlfriend specifically, but 17 police calls to one address is a number that tells you something was consistently wrong in or around that building, and that the night of October 29th was not some random isolated incident in a calm place. While all of that is moving through the court system, Schofield's family has been left on the outside trying to grieve something that doesn't make any sense to them.
Just remember him as being a lover and a giver, a helper.
His relative Diamond Clyburn put up a GoFundMe on October 31st, the day after the shooting, with a goal of $3,500 to help the family send him off properly with a celebration of his life. The campaign raised $2,947 from 54 donors, and while it did not hit the goal, the fact that over 50 people moved quickly to support his family tells you something about the kind of love he had around him. He left behind 2 young kids. His family remembered him as a proud Stone Mountain High School alumnus, a devoted father, a beloved son, brother, and uncle, and his obituary was handled by Rucker Funeral Home in Decatur, Georgia. A man who never stopped trying to be better than where he started, and who never got the chance to finish that story. As of March 2026, Durante Roe Tolliver is still locked up in Fulton County Jail without bond. The case is still working its way through pretrial, and his family is still waiting on something that looks like an answer. Whether what happened in that parking lot was self-defense or murder is going to be decided by a jury eventually. But whether any of this had to happen at all is a question that answers itself. Do you think the claim about a romantic relationship between Schofield's girlfriend and his father could possibly be true? Let me know what you think in the comments section. Also, click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this. See you in the next one.